The vast majority of crypto projects fail or die because nobody cares.
We are still in the low float meta.
There are no simple solutions for why tokens keep fucking going down.
Your friends are getting hilariously rich punting quantum meme stocks, and you're stuck flat in Bitcoin.
If it's just another copycat, there is no value at all, and it shouldn't exist.
Crypto Twitter is so mad at everything right now that Satoshi could launch Bitcoin and everyone would hate it.
Not a dividend.
It's a tale of two Quan.
Now, your losses are on someone else's balance sheet.
Generally speaking, airdrops are kind of pointless anyways.
Unnamed trading firms who are very involved.
I like that ETH is the ultimate concept.
DeFi protocols are the antidote to this problem.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Chopping Block. Every couple of weeks, four of us get together and give the industry insider's perspective on the crypto topics of the day. So quick intros. First, we got Tom, the DeFi maven and master of memes.
Hello, everyone.
Next, we've got Robert, the crypto connoisseur and czar of Superstate.
Good winter's eve.
Yes, in hat today. We decided to represent in hat because it's winter and maybe the last live show they'll be doing for the year. Joining us today, we've got special guest Kevin, shitposter specialist at the Monad Foundation.
I like that.
Yeah.
First time hearing that.
Welcome, welcome. And I'm Haseeb, the head hype man at Dragonfly. We're early stage investors in crypto, but I want to caveat that nothing we say here is investment advice, legal advice, or even life advice. Please see choppingblock.xyz for more disclosures. So we wanted to bring you here because Monad has been the talk of the town. It launched its token last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess last week.
Congratulations.
And congratulations on the token launch. Probably one of the most hated token launches I have seen in the last year. Just the sheer amount of argument elicited from people who are not either short or long, just to have something to say, is probably the highest density I have seen in quite a while. Now, that being said, you guys are also one of the most hyped projects over the last year. And one of the things that I've noticed as a phenomenon in crypto is that the more hyped you are pre-TGE, almost always that means that the hammer is going to come down one way or another with respect to the difficulty of living up to those super high expectations. So how do you feel like, or how do the people at Monad feel like the launch went, given how long you guys have been working on this thing?
Yeah, the only thing I was thinking about for 2 months prior was just every single thing that could go horribly wrong and any of the risks involved. So from that perspective, I think everything went very smoothly, right? The chain launched, there's no hiccups, 100% uptime. And so everything is functioning as intended, which is great. On the hate side, yeah, I know something is like the only thing that people are tagging me in on Twitter when my mom texts me about it.
Your mom is texting you about
She
it?
has like an alt account.
Oh, wow.
And she was like, how are you?
What's the handle?
It's at
Is she a milady?
Crypto. It's fine.
Oh.
No.
All right, everybody follow mom.
Yeah.
Doxed your
mom learns
Wow.
crypto.
Doxing your mom, that's a
It's fine. It's in a non-handle.
tough
but,
move.
Not a non anymore.
Yeah. But she texted me and was like, how are you dealing with all this? Like, are you seeing this? Like, what's going on? Like, yeah, mom.
Are you seeing
I'm
this?
getting like 200 notifications a minute.
Wow.
But yeah, I think it's generally in crypto. I mean, one of my goals or the things that I have tried to do with Monad is make sure that people have an opinion. Like good or bad, it kind of nets out. Just make sure there is attention because
People had opinions.
yeah,
Succeeded.
the vast majority of crypto projects fail or die because nobody cares.
Mhm.
So like as long as people care, it's not good. Now, it's much better if people care and they love it. That's preferred. But caring at all is definitely important. I also think that when a lot of people care about one thing in crypto, the popular thing to do is be cynical about it. I think there's actually a lot of healthy skepticism in crypto, right? You know, everyone here has been around for a while. Generally, if you heard about a new project, like the right natural response is like, that's probably not real or a scam. And maybe an easy mental model to take for this is like, if your mom texted you and was like, hey, I heard about this crypto. Do you think it's good? You'd be like, don't touch it. It's definitely bad, right? Like everyone has that natural instinct. So the burden of proof is on the team and on the project to like show that it is a good thing. I think in this case, it's just been a massive, very public wave of
Yeah.
give me the proof.
So synthesize it for anyone who's not up to date with it. What would you say, based on this massive wave of conversation, like the top 3 complaints are?
Yeah, I think that there's one that's just like an emotional response, and this takes the form of just like pure spew of hate. And I think the reason for that is like crypto's a lot of similarities with religion, and just like anything that is not your religion tends to like incite this emotional response that's negative. I think that there are criticisms of like the main one is like, why do we need another L1? Which is super fair. That's probably the most long-standing question that I've gotten. And it's like the correct question, I think, for anyone who like, if you know a little bit about Monad, the correct question asked is, why do we need another L1?
Yeah, so I think if I had to kind of reduce it down to what the most common criticisms were, I would say probably number one is, okay, this is just a way for VCs to dump on retail. And obviously we should caveat the show with that. I think all of us are investors in Monad. So we are some of the VCs about which people are complaining. So complaint number one, VCs dumping. Complaint, which obviously is not happening yet because none of the VCs are unlocked. Complaint number two is, why do we need more L1s? Isn't there too much infra? You guys should have launched years ago. Like, kind of too little too late. We already have all this stuff. Like, these problems are all solved now. Okay. And I actually think it'd be really interesting because it triggered a lot of hate, but also a lot of, I thought, really actually meaningful engagement and conversation. So one of the big debates that this triggered was actually Kyle Samani, friend of the show. He came out and said that the big mistake that he sees over and over again from token launches, I think Monad probably being the triggering event for this conversation, is that you should make it so that all tokens are unlocked day one. Right. So one of the phenomena that we see with token launches is that normally what happens is there's a 1-year cliff. Before 1 year, none of the insiders, the team, the investors, the advisors, none of them get unlocked. And so all at once, generally, after a year, a wave of those tokens unlock, and then they unlock continuously over the next, call it 3 to 4 years. That's the most common way that token launches are done. And so his argument was that, well, Solana didn't do it that way. What Solana did is I think they had like a 9-month cliff, and then everything unlocked all at once in 9 months. And his argument is that actually even that was stupid. We should have done everything unlocked day one, like complete float, total free for all.
The price
let
is
markets,
the price.
Yeah, the price is the price, and let markets discover their true point. If the VCs are going to dump, let them dump immediately, get it out of the way, and like let's just find, real
Fair
price
value.
discovery. Fair value.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I came out very strongly against this, but I want to get a sense of what is your gut reaction to that debate about the mechanism that we have today. The principal criticism of it is that it doesn't allow true price discovery because the supply is going to massively inflate when all those tokens come online, and it can be like a 2xing, a 3xing, a 4xing of the float, as usually not 4xing, but more like 2xing.
I mean, I feel like for the last 4 to 5 years or so, and I think SBF sort of mastered this originally with this low float, high FTV game. The meta for the last 4 to 5 years has been low float, high FTV, where projects release as little of the float as they can initially. And it starts trading on 1%, 2%, maybe 5% of the FTV. And there's a delay, and you show the price based on this tiny float for as long as possible. And then things unlock and everybody can sell at hopefully a high price, right? That's been the meta that almost every team in project has used.
Well, that's definitely not typical.
No, there have been many successful ones. That
No. 1 to 3% is extremely low. That is nowhere near where the market average is. 1 to 3% was like WorldCoin. WorldCoin was like 2%, I think.
Yeah.
And that was egregiously low.
Fine. Let's just say 5% in a lot
Serum
of
is fair
cases.
in your case on the SBF side of low
Yeah.
flow high. I feel like that's the coin that people think of, like that's slow flow.
Yeah, Serum was an example of that, right? But like that, like more typically, because I wrote this big article last year where I analyzed the floats that were coming out, both I think on Binance last year, as well as historical floats for Solana, Near, Avalanche, like, the previous generation of companies. And even things like Uniswap and 0x and all this stuff. And what you find is that historical averages are around like 11, 12%.
That's still extremely small. 11, 12% of 100%.
Yeah. Do you know what the typical is for an IPO?
Yeah, it's like 10%.
Yeah, it's about the same.
I know, but it means that there's going to be 9x the amount of supply in the future, 10x, right?
Yes.
That is still a low float game, right? We're still in the low float meta. And I think maybe it's bouncing between two ends of a pendulum and they're both wrong, right? I think there's problems with both. There's problems with everything being unlocked day zero, right? There's problems with, and you pointed this, like that was the ICO wave in 2017.
Right.
It was like, haha, TGE, like everybody, including the founders and the team, is 100% out today.
Yeah.
They walk away from the project, right? Clearly there are wrongs from everything is unlocked. There is no vesting. There's clearly also problems with everything is locked. The market is trading a tiny piece of this for a long time, both ends of this pendulum seem bad and broken.
Sure.
The correct answer is likely in the middle.
Yeah, I think it also comes back to the fact that like token launches are done so much earlier in the life cycle of a project compared to an actual IPO. And so therefore, I think you actually do need constraints. Like there's path dependency to the success of like the project, right? One team that has like a terrible, token launch and the token trades sideways or down for years might actually be structurally set up worse to perform and to build a better product than someone who has, perpetually higher token price that gives them a war chest, that gives momentum to the project, that gives like excitement for it. And so there is like kind of this weird token price management component, which kind of sucks, but it is kind of true. But I don't know. I think it's kind of naive to say that like, oh, if we just had everything unlocked day one, everyone performed the exact same with the exact same incentives. When I'm like, clearly that's not true. That's never been the case. And then comparing it to an IPO is just like it's not analogous in many ways.
Yeah.
Good.
One other aspect I think that has come into play, like when people think of 2021, it very much is like low flow, high FTV meta, for better or worse, is just burned into everyone's brain of like, that was a 2021 cycle, SPF, running wild, minimal floats. There is an aspect of just being able to do token launches in a different way now, right? Like Monad was the first ever token sale on Coinbase, which was great. Working with them was awesome. To my knowledge, was the broadest distribution for like known participants, not just counting wallets from the ICO days, which was a great way to launch a token, right? You have a very decentralized holder base early on.
How many participants was it?
There's just over 85,000 total
85,000.
participants.
Okay.
KYC'd on Coinbase, which is like, this tough KYC.
Right.
Which is a great way to launch a token. And it's also a safer way from a project's point of view to get 7.5% of the float was sold. And then, roughly 3.5% was airdropped. But I think like for the last 4 years, it was kind of like, how does float get out there day one? It's like you kind of just have to airdrop it. And now everyone has this learned behavior of like, the second I get anything on airdrop, just sell it to zero. And then it's just like, it's been difficult structurally, I think. And so token sales via exchanges to get more float out there, I think is like a healthy progression of just like how tokens get into the market to start a chain.
I mean, that is a better way because, previously when ICOs were basically verboten, if you wanted to increase the float, that basically meant, okay, do a bigger airdrop. And doing a bigger airdrop, of course, as we've learned, has become less and less efficient at actually doing anything useful. So you're kind of just burning tokens in order to maybe solve a market structure problem that like, how much is this actually a solution to that problem? TBD. The other thing, of course, is like, what's the other side of tokens with no locks? The answer is meme coins. And okay, you go see a meme coin, everything's unlocked, everything's trading immediately. Is there all that much evidence that like, okay, these things trade better or more stably, or there's better price discovery or whatever? It's not really clear. But then also if you look at previous generations of tokens, right? So just go look back at Yearn or look back at stuff that is fully distributed, right? If it's true that high FTV, low float is the primary cause of this last batch of tokens going poorly, then what you should see is dispersion. What you should see is that tokens that are mainly unlocked are doing better than tokens that are more recent that have this high FTV, low float mechanic. And you do not see that. You do not see that like, oh yeah, Yearn and Compound, which are fully distributed, are doing really well relative to insert DeFi project from this vintage. You say, actually, no, they're all moving together. And there really is no clear regressor you can run that says, this explains why things are going poorly. So that was my principal critique of the low FTV, high float story, is that these tokens have basically always been quote unquote low float, high FTV. If you consider low float to be like 12%. 12% is the historical average. It was the historical average in 2018, and it's a historical average in 2024. 2025, I don't know, I didn't run the numbers, but I wrote this article in 2024. So I don't think the story is that simple. If it were, it would have a really simple solution. But there are no simple solutions for why tokens keep fucking going down. So my argument is that like, no, I think vesting is good. I think this is not something that we should not remove. I do think there are ways that we can improve it at the margin. I do think that the main way that you can improve it at the margin is with token sales, right? If you do a token sale, then one, it's a non-wasteful way of getting more float out there, right? So you get more float out there immediately. You can actually make sure that's going to real users by doing some kind of deduplication / Sybil resistance. And by getting those tokens out to real users, you get cash instead of just airdropping it to random people, right? And then with that cash, you can make the protocol better or in some ways even do some kind of market stabilization. Now, TBD whether or not that's legally advisable, but I have to imagine that norms around this are going to evolve in some way. My guess is that at some point what happens is people find ways to get more creative about how to use very, very large token sales. So maybe let's say you sell, not 7%, but let's say like 15% of the token supply. And with that amount of cash, if it's a really big project that has a nominally high FTV, you use that cash in some way that's not, okay, we're like in the market as a dealer just going out and buying back our token, but there's some kind of programmatic way in which this is a stabilizing pool of capital for the token markets, right? That's not discretionary. I can imagine that becomes a new norm in the market that both increases float, but also doesn't say, okay, I have this giant pile of money, but I'm not going to just burn it in a gigantic fat treasury that I, just give out token grants and stuff that don't end up going anywhere. Because that is the other failure mode that we saw from previous cycles when projects would raise huge sums of money and the ROI, when you get into the hundreds of millions, just plummets on your ability to actually drive meaningful outcomes.
But here's the counter argument, right? If you are a mature project that is about to launch a blockchain or an application where it's fully built, right?
Yeah.
Raising the capital at the end of the process when it is fully built, there are a lot fewer use cases for that capital besides, to your point, being a dealer, market maker, whatever, buying back tokens later. Like the capital is less useful at the end when it's ready for launch versus at the beginning when there's a lot of building and hiring and it's development.
I don't know that that's true.
Yeah, it's kind of true, but like, it's not like these foundations or these labs, like they launch the blockchain, they walk away, right? There's still a lot of work to be done. And even you look at something like Uniswap, right? It's like many different versions have been built out and probably more, capital spent post, token launch than pre. But I think to Kevin's point too, it's also about, you need float. The question is, do you just give the token away to a bunch of people who are probably sibling you anyway, and they're just going to dump it immediately? Or do you have some better method of distribution? And it feels like a sale is like a better way to do that, even if you don't care about generating any money. Like even if it were you have to, I don't know, draw some blood to get this token. That would still be a better way than, just giving out an airdrop.
That's like WorldCoin.
WorldCoin.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Go in the arm.
Yeah.
Okay. Blood coin.
Saliva sample.
Blood coin. Who's building
Sam
this?
gives you tokens.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay. So the one side of this is, should all tokens be unlocked immediately and should tokens vest? The other core criticism of Monad is, why do we need another fucking L1? We already have so much block space. Ethereum's cheap, right? Vitalik was just posting just come build on L1. The fees are like 1 cent to do a swap or whatever. So there is a real question of okay, hey, maybe at the time that you guys started building Monad, which was I believe 2022 when Monad was first founded. Okay, maybe in 2022 there was an argument about why we needed this blockchain, but you idiots were way too late. You shipped this thing 3 years late, and now we solved all the problems. Why do we need you? So this criticism was probably the most common thing that I saw. And I wrote this big, long article, and we ended up reading it out, or I ended up reading it out on the chopping block on Sunday, of kind of critiquing this cynicism that people feel increasingly about, not just about, okay, do we need new infra, but also, is any of this infra valuable at all? Is Ethereum valuable? Is Solana valuable? And of course, if the answer to that is no, then obviously the answer to Monad is going to be no. But so curious how you guys saw that whole zeitgeist playing out.
I mean, I think as a society in general, there's always room for more experimentation and development of L1s, as long as you're trying something different or you're iterating on the structure of an L1 in some way. If it's the 37th EVM L2 of Ethereum, it is not valuable at all compared to the 36th, the 35th, whatever, right? If there's genuine differentiation, then it's, I think, valuable because it's something that society can learn from, developers can learn from, users can learn from. It extends the social knowledge, right? There's value there. If it's just another copycat, there is no value at all and it shouldn't exist. That's my personal belief.
Yeah. I think people acknowledge that Monad's not a copycat, so Arthur Hayes came out and he was just, I think first he was like, oh, Monad $10, Monad's going to rip. And then it went down and then he was like, fuck Monad, it's VC trash, short this thing to zero. And Keone wrote this very heartfelt post of oh, well, actually, Mr. Hayes, we have all this great technology that may I interest you in. And he described all the different innovations. And I think Arthur's response was something like, Look, I've heard from people that you guys are good guys and that you built some real tech, but like, yeah, who cares? Look, no one needs it. Even if I don't care if you build good tech, nobody needs this, and this is the same kind of down only VC trash that is just going to die on the vine. And so, yeah, even if it is differentiated, even if it is different, even if they did really improve the mousetrap, well, we don't need better mousetraps. The mousetraps catch mice.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this happens with every tech cycle, and then okay, there's some new use case that actually does take advantage. I mean, people, I feel like also like how many perp dexes were there before Hyperliquid, and now it just like it's. I think it's such a like a facile argument. I think also like I was thinking about the Monad too, where like I feel like you guys actually did everything, and like people still hated you for it. Where normally it's like, okay, you didn't airdrop me enough tokens. Okay, actually like a very cool airdrop ceremony. It's like, okay, you didn't do the sale. The sale was like very extractive. Okay, it's like you had this big sale, and it's like, and then you actually built the tech, and like there's so many other like random bullshit projects from the past 3 years that you see people promoting on Twitter, and I feel like you guys like, it's like the squeaky clean kid in like the back of the class that like has done everything right, but people still fucking beat you up in the in the playground anyway. So I don't know. It's just like it's very funny. I'm like, how can you hate this child? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I mean, going back to like people kind of having their clans, and that's like where they claim, and they like, I'm a Patriots fan when we play the Giants. Like, I don't actually have any opinion of the players, but it's like, oh, we're playing the Giants. Like, I hate those guys. I think a very similar thing happens with crypto, except there's also like a financial component to it, to where people own an asset, and anything that could potentially challenge that is an enemy or a foe.
I actually think that's a very small part of it. I think there was some of like,
I
the ETH tribalists and the solo tribalists, some of them were coming out, but it was much bigger than that, right?
Yeah, there have been other L1s that have launched in the past couple years that like don't get as much like tribal beef, right?
Here's what I'd say. Here's what I'd say is that like what I saw most interestingly about Monad is that people who normally never talk about anything like this had opinions about Monad, right? And the thing that's interesting is that everybody has this intuition that there's too many L1s, there's too much block space, fees are way down. So like this is a non-problem that you guys are trying to solve. And it's the most common criticism is that it's extractive, that you guys are, almost like duping the market or playing to the market's weakness or folly that, oh, okay, that markets like L1s. So you guys are creating this L1 to extract from the market and to like fool the market into giving you a valuation that you guys can then dump on. So it's almost like it's a very different kind of mental model than just, oh, you're bad because you're shitting on Ethereum, right? What's interesting is that if you think about like the really big success stories in the L1 space, they all actually had a very similar reaction, right? Ethereum got the Bitcoin people so angry.
Yes.
Right? Like irrationally angry. People who would never touch, like they don't care. They would never use Ethereum. But like just the idea that Ethereum existed, it's like, oh, this shit coin that you ICO'd, like why didn't you just fork Bitcoin? Why didn't you building this on Bitcoin? They were so angry about it. And the second one that got a very similar reaction was Solana, right? Where it's like, so like, why are you building this? This is not decentralized. This is, you guys are liars. You're manipulating people into buying your fucking whatever. Like it's not open source, blah, 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 all this stuff. And so now that's not to say that because people are mad, it's not that you're going to do well, but it is a sign that people being mad is not very indicative of anything in particular, except that you are very close to the bloodstream. I think that's what it indicates more than anything. Like L1s on some level, like they are obviously the most core thing in crypto. Like it's the whole ballgame is blockchains. And so building a new blockchain, it's like somebody who goes and tries to build a new Bitcoin. If anybody, like it's kind of laughable today if somebody were to come to a VC and pitch, I'm going to build the next Bitcoin. You just kind of be like, you're joking, right? Like that's not a serious pitch.
I would actually love to hear a pitch like that.
Yeah.
In 2026.
Yeah. But like people used to pitch that. Like I remember getting pitches like that
all the time.
In 18, 17. Yeah.
Oh, how many better Bitcoins were there?
Yeah. Totally. Right. But like today it would be funny to get that pitch, right? There's like literally a joke. But making that pitch about Ethereum, about Solana, about whatever, it's threatening because one can imagine it could actually happen. It's hard. It's extremely hard. But I think like most of the really big outcomes in venture, they have that kind of reaction, right? They like, it's so implausible that it makes you angry. You never get angry about something that's like just stupid. You know, if somebody says like, I want to build the next Bitcoin, nobody's going to get angry about that. Like Bitcoiners aren't going to start writing these long threads of, I can't believe this person would compare themselves to Bitcoin.
No, they wouldn't even notice it
Right.
unless it got big.
Right.
It would have to have this like survivor bias to even like enter people's radar. I think.
Yeah.
It would be dismissed categorically.
Right.
Like, and not worth conversation.
Right. But I have to imagine for you guys, like it must be demoralizing to some degree to go from being probably like the highest favorable ratings in crypto Twitter to now being like public enemy #1 in the span of like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting texts from my mom. She's like, how upset are you?
Totally.
She's like, should I reply? I'm like, never tweet ever. Don't touch the title. Like,
so what are you telling your team? How are you telling your team to navigate this?
Yeah, I think one reframing that has been helpful is that like they're actually giving energy instead of like hate. And so maybe like part of my team, we view attention as a more kind of absolute value. So like if somebody hates you, it's not a negative. It's actually worth more than them not caring whatsoever. And so framing it like that, like helps take the sting off a little bit. Like maybe it's not worth the same as positive endorsement,
Right.
but it does spark conversation. And so I think leaning into that has been helpful.
Spoken like a true shit poster.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, like I think about, probably a lot of people who watch this show know like choose rich Nick, right? He's
Love that guy.
Dude, he gets an insane amount of views. Most people who don't know what he's doing is hate. And then everyone who like kind of knows his bit is like, oh, this guy's actually great at what he's doing. But he's getting more engagement on crypto Twitter than like anyone else, essentially. And so that even though these comments are very negative, he is creating a brand. I think he likened it in a recent podcast. I think Laura Shin's podcast actually
Unchained.
to Barstool. He's like, Portnoy does the same thing. There's as many people that hate Dave Portnoy as love him. And that's like part of the entire amassing of energy. And so to me, the most important thing, like it is really hard to understand what Monet is on the tech side. Like it is a very technical project. So the best chance you have to get people to know that they should build on it is to just get generalized energy and attention. And then when it's centered around Monad, like hopefully they actually look into what it is. And I think that has actually worked quite well for a number of years. Like could do without like the personal insults of people saying like,
what's the worst personal insult you've seen that rubbed you the wrongest way?
There are like very long streams of DMs. I'm trying to think. Maybe how about this? I'll go with like the one thing that has made my day in the last few days. On Sunday, it was just like after Arthur Aza posted, and it was basically just like crypto Twitter erupted. It was like every single person had an opinion on Monad. And I put out a tweet like, it feels to me like everyone is just rooting or like hoping that Monad is a scam. They like want this to be a scam so bad. Like, why?
Yeah.
And it's like clearly, Keone and team have spent 4 years at this point. There's been an insane amount of effort. Like we've tried to Tom's point, we've tried literally everything to try to be squeaky clean and like do the public sale, do the airdrop, like make sure that those boxes are checked. But it doesn't like it didn't actually end up changing the result much. Which is funny. Like at the time when we were doing this, we thought it might. But yeah, I don't know. Sorry. Back to
What made your day?
What made my day? Don Alt I was like, why does it feel like everyone wants Monad to be a scam so bad? And Don Alt replied with a couple actual like good answers, and then he's like, listen, crypto Twitter is so mad at everything right now that Satoshi could launch Bitcoin and everyone would hate it. It was like genuinely like you could launch the best thing in the world, but people are just angry. And I think it's part of the way that the cycle has gone. Like altcoins have generally gotten crushed relative to Bitcoin. And like even Ethereum has been kind of crushed for a lot of the cycle. People have been trading meme coins and just be like losing money. Like the little guys who spent time to try to learn what to do in crypto besides just buy Bitcoin have generally done very poorly and they're just angry. And so it's much easier to just not care and just say, I hate this thing.
Yeah.
And then like when you see other people doing it too, there's also torque to it, right? You just buy into the mob mentality.
Totally. Cool to hate Monad right now.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I should hate on Monad. I feel like
Maybe you should be buying into the Mon mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of different explanations. It's like why do we need another L1? And there's like an emotional answer to that. For that, like the reason that they're asking might be emotional. There's an actual answer to it. It's pretty complex, but at least it's happening around Monad and not around some other project.
Yeah. I mean, look,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like the week one of a launch of any chain is almost always a nothing burger. That was true for Ethereum. It was true for Solana. It was true for the move chains. It's, for Base. Like Base, the only thing that happened in the first week was there was a bald token. And besides that, like there was nothing going on. Like, what are you going to get done in 1 week? The answer is very little. It takes time for an ecosystem to develop and actually be able to prove itself. So the question of, is Monad bullshit? Is Monad going to succeed? Is it going to do well? Does not get answered in the first week. There's so little data. And like, yeah, people are going to come around. They're going to play around the chain. They're going to use a couple of the apps. They're going to buy a couple meme coins. But the ability for you to retain founders, teams, TVL, activity, all that stuff is yet to be proven. So the question of, should you be bearish on Monad? You don't know enough to know yet. Give it time, let the data come out, and let the team do what teams do.
Yeah, you know this. Everyone already knows this, but the echo chamber loses its focus and finds a new shiny object to hate or to discuss or to love very quickly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think for better or for worse, the energy around Monad is actually going to dissipate as people get enraged by the next thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, so like, Eigenlayer, they recently put out this postmortem talking about why restaking underperformed as a narrative, let's say. Like, obviously, there were extremely high expectations, and they were like, look, why do we feel like we underdelivered on this story? Why have there been so few AVSs? Why have there been so few success stories about the core narrative that we were telling? And I think, if I think of Monad, Eigenlayer is probably the closest example I can think of this kind of rise and fall of narrative momentum. And the reality is that I cannot think of a single project that had that degree of hype that successfully delivered on that degree of hype, right? Almost always when you have that amount of hype pre-launch, you are not going to be able to live up to it because crypto Twitter can just imagine arbitrary amounts of goodness and airdrops and money making and, the token just going up and to the right infinitely. And that kind of irrational exuberance almost always is a setup for a disappointment because nobody can deliver on that in 1 week. How on earth could you? How could you tell, like, oh, Monad finally launched, and guess what? Everyone was right. It's worth 20 billion. It's worth 50 billion. We figured it all out.
TVL went vertical.
Yeah, TVL went to 5 billion. What would people do with 5 billion on Monad on day one? Obviously nothing. It takes time for that ecosystem to develop. So I guess my point is that the rise and fall of those early expectations, like all those people who have an opinion about an asset that they don't own, they're not even short. They just have an opinion because it's cool to have an opinion about Monad. All those people are not going to be paying attention to you in 3 weeks. And your audience is going to be the people who actually do care. People who actually are interested in layer ones. People who actually are interested in, hey, should I move to a new chain? Should I be buying something on Monad? Should I be using this for my DeFi activity? And those are the people who actually matter, who are actually winnable. At the end of the day, if you don't care one way or another, you're just like saying something to have an opinion, then you're not the audience. You're not even a part, you're not even relevant to the audience. And so I think the game will feel different when that smoke screen clears, right? In the same way, like for Eigenlayer, everybody had an opinion on Eigenlayer. For most people today, I don't think they even remember that they had an opinion about Eigenlayer.
I do.
Yeah.
I still love Eigenlayer. I also think, the expectations were extremely high. My own expectations were up here. And
Yeah.
it's sort of sad that they didn't capture the value of that narrative like they could have.
Right. I mean, we're investors in Eigenlayer, and I think obviously everybody had sky high expectations. When that was happening, I was telling everybody at Dragonfly, I think people are in for disappointment because the expectations around so many of these pre-TG projects is just people are kind of pricing for absolute success and like immediate out of the gates, like everything's going to go great. And almost nothing happens that way.
Yeah.
Almost nothing happens that way. Very few of the startups that you think of as successful look like that. Solana didn't look like that. Coinbase didn't look like that. Hyperliquid didn't look like that. Like none of these projects look like that. All of them had long incubation periods where they were figuring it out, doing the work, getting the thing to actually be in a state that it could scale, and then eventually scaling it.
Right. Most of them were quietly chugging along without much attention, even if they were trying to gain visibility and attention before their success.
Right. So all that is to say, if I had to send a message to the Monad team, which obviously, I don't know if they care what I have to say, but my message would be chill. Like the game starts now, not last week. Whether or not you win the likes on crypto Twitter is not the game. The game starts now. It's for the next year, the next 2 years, the next 3 years is the actual game.
Enter the Monad Monastery.
There you go.
I like that. I like that.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's very much been the team mentality. I mean, through this week, even the 4 months leading up to launch, every single all team meeting just hammered in like, this is the starting line, right? It's probably not going to look the same as however you're picturing it. Some things will be accurate. There are some unknown unknowns. We'll figure it out. Just like we have a good plan. We spent a long time building a ship. Like we're dropping in the water. It's going to be shaky, and then it starts.
Yeah.
So very excited to see what the next few months look like in the Monad ecosystem.
Right.
Excited to support new builders who hopefully we captured their attention, and now they learned about Mana because they heard all the hate and are interested in deploying. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so that is kind of all on the bullish side of infrastructure. There's also been some stories this week that are maybe bearish on the side of infrastructure. So one of them was we had another DeFi hack this week, which was Yearn, super OG project. And Yearn, there was some rounding. Was it a rounding bug?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Actually, do you know what happened?
I actually did not. It was also only on the Sonic deployment, I believe. It was not on like all the Yearns. It was like a sub pool within Yearn.
Yeah, it was like a sub. It was like a small protocol YETH. It was exploited by some kind of rounding bug when depositing very tiny amounts. There was an underflow bug. I'm sorry, it was an underflow bug. They stole $9 million. Wasn't an enormous sum by DeFi standards, but obviously still bad to see an OG DeFi protocol like Yearn to have a vulnerability. This exploit, I think it was the next day that another story that was seemingly connected along the same thread, this time by Anthropic, the creator of Claude. So Anthropic announced that they were working on using frontier models in agentic systems to try to exploit smart contracts programmatically. So they've introduced a new benchmark that they are now testing their own agents on, as well as GPT-5 on, to see whether or not it can hack smart contracts using a data set of known smart contract hacks. So initially, I think previously when they were testing on this, they got 2% of all of the smart contracts that they were able to exploit. They are now at 55% efficacy of being able to hack the smart contracts in their data set. Now, of course, these are known hacks. So there may be some data contamination, possibly, you can imagine they trained on some blog post that described how the hack was done. So can you know for certain that this is really a clean readout of their ability to hack in the wild? And so in order to test that, they also tested on new exploits that were discovered after their training data, and they found that they were able to discover some exploits that were on, they were discovered after that date, as well as 2 0 days. A 0 day is a exploit that is the first impression anytime anyone has ever seen this exploit. They discovered 2 new exploits in the wild that their bot found that no human has ever found. Now, unfortunately, or thankfully, these exploits were worth about $3,000 each. So they were very small amounts of money that were exploitable. They did do a white hat hack of one of these contracts in partnership with Seal in order to save the $3,000. So thankfully, nobody had their money stolen from this. But it's a sign that the times they are changing. And of course, one way you can think about this is like, oh my God, attackers could be using these models in order to do some of these exploits. Like some people were speculating that, maybe the Yearn attack was done by this exploit. We talked before about the balancer hack, maybe having some signs of having been vibe coded.
Right.
But of course, the other side of that is that perhaps defenders can also use these models to, programmatically scan for vulnerabilities and find the vulnerabilities that attackers might otherwise find themselves. And maybe they have more resources to be able to spend on this than attackers do. So thoughts on the incoming AI smart contract apocalypse?
I actually take issue with this story. I was reading the blog post.
Okay.
I think this is just an intern, frankly, puffing up their accomplishments. Because if you actually read through the exploits in the actual Anthropic post, I would not call these exploits. Like the one that they really highlight, it's this basically like a token sale platform. You can send in money and it emits a token. And there was a pancake swap pool for that same token that was trading at like 10x the ICO price. And so they're like, there's an arbitrage here. So I'm going to mint a bunch of these tokens for cheap and then sell them in the pancake
I agree.
swap pool. I'm like,
Arbitrage versus
that is an arbitrage.
long-standing
That is
DeFi.
Because it was an unchecked method, right? It wasn't supposed to be callable after the ICO.
No, there's re-entrancy because you can like mint 1 million tokens in one transaction recursively, but then the amount that's being stolen is from the pancake swap pool. So it's like the pancake swap pool is just mispriced.
Okay.
I'm like, that's not an exploit.
Agreed.
Or these other ones is like, oh, they didn't set their affiliate parameter when they. I'm like, okay, it's not a 0 day. A 0 day in my mind is like, Mossad is like listening on your phone. This is like, oh, someone deployed a meme coin and they didn't set the affiliate. So I'm like, look, it's cool. It's very cool. But I'm just like, it's not quite what I was imagining when I think of like AI hacking.
Yeah, I mean, it's not cool. It's not that useful yet. But like all AI started with, it's not that useful. It's not that cool to get to the point where we're at today, right? Like if you trend line this one out in a year to 2 years, software will be better at writing secure code and finding vulnerabilities than humans, like objectively. It's almost there. It will definitively be better than the best humans. And that is going to be a weird inflection point where the security posture of every single team writing smart contracts and lower level code is going to have to change.
Yeah.
Like you are going to be forced to adopt software first development.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think it's maybe like a little embarrassing too that many of the exploits that are being like found now, even after the training cutoff, it's like they're like the source of the vulnerability is like from a known vulnerability. I'm like, what? Like it's just like, oh, you already know this is an issue. I mean, it's like people who are still doing like
I know, but
re-entry bugs in like 2025. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
A lot of the DeFi hacks in the days of yore came from
I know,
known types of vulnerabilities that teams did not patch their own code, or they were alerted that like there's a new vulnerability and they said like, oh, it doesn't apply to us. We looked at our code.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's bad for the team. I'm like, it's embarrassing. It's like,
I mean, look, they had this urine hack was an underflow.
Yeah.
Right. And then like these things are like the balancer hack was a rounding error. So like we're still getting hit with the basics.
Yeah.
Right. This is not rocket science. Oh, somebody found some EVM, memory corruption thing. Like it's all just kind of brick and mortar. Yeah, you're supposed to round. You fucked up the rounding, dude.
Yeah.
Right.
It does feel like on the 1 to 2 year time horizon, though, it's almost like the same kind of quantum risk people have talked about for Bitcoin for a long time. This is like the slow takeoff version of that. They're like, the AI is gonna get good enough and then it can hack smart contracts.
So you're saying that AIs will use quantum computers to hack all of
No, just like everyone's like,
that's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing.
The quantum risk, right? The overnight quantum's going to get cracked. And then what's the fastest way to pull value if you crack quantum? Like take Bitcoin. This is just like a slower version of like the computer's going to get better and better at hacking. And eventually or the story at least is, Balancer was just hacked. And now you're in like the OG DeFi protocols are now cracking. Imagine what happens with GPT-7.
Right. But
so it feels
you're
like
going to have new protocols written a year to 2 years from now that are written AI first that are not crackable.
It's a quantum resistance version of
yes.
yeah. It's like 1 to 1.
When you get on AI these days, like quantum finds a way into that conversation. I have noticed this more and more. This is definitely a trend.
Quantum analogous security.
I heard recently that's the way you get engagement on x.com these days is you have to talk about quantum and Nikita boost your posts.
Oh, is that right?
Pro tip.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never tweeted the word quantum.
Do it after the show.
Yeah.
Just see how we're giving out.
Let's pop the quantum cherry.
You guys keep talking.
Should we pop the quantum cherry? Live?
Yeah, live.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
You guys keep talking.
What are you going to tweet? What are you going to tweet? Let's collectively compose this.
Just one word.
AI DeFi.
I was going to say
is the
quantum
slow
is
takeoff.
overrated.
The quantum is over. No. We just say quantum solves AI. I think that's what
quantum with hat.
Okay. Quantum
quantum solves AI. I think that's the tweet.
solves AI. Done.
All right. Once we finish this, I'm going to retweet
You're
that.
gonna get like a Naval retweet somehow. Yeah.
I love it.
That's so wise.
This
That's so
is
wise.
going to be my lamest tweet of all time.
No, dude. This is going to go viral. I'm
Certified
telling you.
banger.
This is like
this is
not
definitely-
certified bang.
This is definitely it's going to
It's certified lame. But let's continue.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. We've embarrassed ourselves enough. So on the public market side, public markets have been very volatile. Markets were dumping yesterday. Now all of a sudden they're undumping. So it looks like Vanguard seemingly has saved us. So Vanguard announced recently that after hating crypto and constantly talking shit about how crypto is uninvestable, or I should say not suitable as an investment for the Vanguard August platform, they recently changed their mind and said, okay, fine, we're going to allow people to buy crypto ETFs. So a big reversal. And then I think this morning, basically when US markets opened, we saw a big pump, and Bitcoin, it was languishing around like 83, 84, refound, like I think it's like 92 now. Yeah. And then like everything pumped like a good 10%. Yesterday, MicroStrategy, now known as Strategy, was also languishing. It finally definitively for the first time went below 1x MNAV. Not for the first time. They obviously were before in the bear
Last week
market.
on the show, we talked how it was flirting.
It was flirting with 1x.
Bouncing
And of course,
around
they've
the
been
line.
below 1x in the past in the bear market post the FTX crash, but they definitively were below 1. And they did this recapitalization where they raised, I think, like 1.4 billion in cash. And they announced we may, if necessary, sell some of the Bitcoin, which caused markets to vomit. And so now they've reclaimed the 1x MNAV, at least as of today. But things are, to say the least, jittery. Now, the story about like why markets have been so weak is macro, kind of. But then the macro story is kind of like, well, actually now the rate cut is priced back in. And so I don't even know if we can blame macro at this point. Like, how are you guys reading this market and just kind of the woes that seem to be besetting everything in crypto?
I'm not a macro guy, so let's ask the L1 guy.
I don't know if I'm smooth branding it, but like MicroStrategy to me was a way to get exposure to Bitcoin. Like that's kind of the origin of the MicroStrategy trade. And then since then it's kind of turned into like proxy for Bitcoin, but it's levered. So on the way up, like it's higher beta. I don't know. If you pair it and squint with the Vanguard side and ETFs, it's kind of just like there's just actual good ways to get exposure to Bitcoin now that isn't like some guy who tweets.
But wasn't that true as of last January?
Right. I'm just saying, like if you look at it on kind of like a 2-3 year time horizon, like ETFs coming in, Vanguard opening it up, like Bank of America embracing, and MicroStrategy compressing isn't like, maybe there's not a causation there, but like the two of them are correlated. I don't know. I preface with that. I might be smooth.
No.
Yeah. Like I just think like there's an easy way to get access to Bitcoin. There wasn't, I don't know.
I do think some of the like bitterness that is just kind of permeating around crypto Twitter right now is because like equities actually had like a killer year and crypto's been flat and
gold.
And it's like, yo, what the fuck? What about us? And I think, your friends are getting hilariously rich punting quantum meme stocks, and you're stuck flat in Bitcoin. And I don't know. I'm sure that actually does affect people's psyche, and they get mad at Monad. So
I mean, if you're flat in Bitcoin, you're doing great relative to everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to do.
Yeah. I think that's definitely true, is that it's like, hey, I was supposed to have made the debasement trade of the year. I was right that like, regulations are going to come off and Trump is going to embrace
crypto
it.
president.
Government's going to buy Bitcoin
reserve
and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And somehow like all my boring boomer friends made money this year and I'm down.
We're now below where we were 12 months ago.
Yeah. November was the big rally when
November was the big rally.
Yeah. So that's a bummer. That's a real bummer.
Yeah. It doesn't feel great.
Yeah.
Hence, people are bashing on Monad.
We'll take it.
Is that it? Is that it?
Yeah.
Is that really it? Is it that simple?
No, but let's just pretend like it
Well,
is.
okay. Well, here's the one thing that people are not bashing is prediction markets.
Yes.
So, and I before we start talking about the news and prediction markets, like why? What's up prediction markets? The first question is like, why do people feel so differently about prediction markets? It's actually not obvious to me. I think that maybe the answer is because there's no tokens yet. I mean, I guess there's like tiny little tokens.
Agreed.
So there's nothing to buy yet. There's nothing to sell yet. There's nothing that you made money on or lost money on. And there's nobody else getting rich who you can identify.
Right now, it's purely a skill-based game.
What do you mean?
If you are trading on Kalshi or Polymarket or the startup ones, right, you are making or losing money as a user of a prediction market, not as an owner of a prediction market. The owners of the prediction markets are doing extremely well, right? Valuations are going straight vertical. Kalshi raised to 11 billion today, right? But as a user, if you've lost money based on prediction markets, it is your own fault because you predicted wrong, right? To your point, there are no tokens.
Yeah, I don't think that's the so like people are mostly happy for Kalshi raising a new round.
Yes.
Polymarket raising a new round.
Yes.
All these valuations being super high. People are like, yeah, great. This is all wonderful. And I'm very happy that I'm seeing this.
Yeah, they're introducing new tools for society.
Right.
That are fun and interesting and valuable. And it's a net good.
Yeah. But not Monad. Monad is Just total extraction. Just total extraction. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No,
You want to speak for the
Is there going to
extraction?
be a
People
prediction
love-
market?
Yeah,
on
explain
Monday?
why you're extracting so much.
there are currently prediction markets. I'm on it. I suggest people go and try them out. You can filter on apt. I'm on it at XYZ for prediction markets.
All right, good.
There's my plug. Prediction markets are great, right? It's just really hard to
No, the ones
dislike
on
them.
Monad. Are they good?
Are they good? They're terrible.
That's smart. That's smart.
Great.
Give them a
Yeah.
shot. I think that they're going to be really good. But on the plug markets, like, I think the key thing, and again, maybe smooth brain take, but like, they're so easy to understand
Hmm.
that onboarding and user acquisition is actually really simple. It's like easier than sports betting. Like the first time you ever did a sports bet, you're like, plus 165. Like, I don't really understand that. You kind of have to learn the math. This is just like, oh, if it wins, this is worth $1.
Yeah.
And it's like so easy and based around big events. Like big events have the most trading volume. So it's like there's kind of a positive flywheel that comes with that of more people care about this thing. So there's more liquidity, more people trade it.
That is a really good point that like I've been in the gambling world for so long, it never really occurred to me what an incredibly unintuitive UX sports betting is.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Of like just looking at the odds. It's a little bit like, you know,
Negative 210. I'm like, I don't know what that
yeah. Like look at it's kind of analogous like margin trading versus perps.
Yeah.
Like perps are just so much simpler than margin trading. Like in theory, they're the same. They're well, not the same, but like they're not that different. But the UX is just so much more intuitive, which just leads to one product growing massively relative to the other. And so it's, you know, even if you're just doing sports betting, like just the way you quote the odds just actually solves so many of the problems or so many of the UX issues with sports betting. But let's put that aside. So some of the news that's been happening in the prediction markets world recently. So one, of course, Polymarket, in which we are investors, recently did their US launch. Hit number one in the App Store for sports. Seems to be going very well, at least in the first week. And Shane was recently featured on 60 Minutes, the very famous American show on CBS, I think it is. And Kalshi, not to be outdone, recently announced it raised a round at a $10 billion valuation. They raised $1 billion, led by, I think it was Paradigm, A16Z, and Sequoia, all existing investors, as well as launching some of their tokenized contracts on Solana. And it's a little bit weird the way they're doing this because, of course, Kalshi is US regulated, CFTC registered, DCM, DCO platform. And Tom, you were explaining to me, how exactly do these things work when they're launching on Solana?
Yeah. So the Jupiter integration has been live for a little bit now, maybe a few months. It's, I think, a little tongue in cheek to say that's like trading on Kalshi because functionally what you're doing is you're basically engaging in like a bilateral swap with Jupiter or DSwap or DFlow or whoever's actually quoting on these platforms. So you're putting money into a contract, they are as well, and they sort of agree to pay you out based on the resolution of the Kalshi contract. But like they're functioning your counterparty, not Kalshi. And then they're quoting you the price of these contracts based on what Kalshi is quoting at the time. So it's sort of like, I can imagine like a, decentralized future of Bitcoin. And then the person who's selling it to me is then hedging it out on the CME. And it's like, okay, I'm kind of in a roundabout way, contributing to CME liquidity. You're getting kind of the on-screen pricing of buying a CME dated Bitcoin future, but like it's actually all kind of self-contained within this contract, and like the CME is not actually the clearing venue for this thing. So it's kind of cute. Like I kind of think it's actually kind of a clever way to offer the product on chain, but like they're functionally just very different. Like if there's a bug in the smart contract or I don't know, there's some issue with your counterparty, like that's your issue. That's Jupiter's issue. That's not Kalshi's issue.
Right. So it's pure RFQ. You're just trading against some market maker who's willing to quote you any of the contracts.
So it's not even Kalshi's product.
No, well, they're using Kalshi for resolution. So the contracts, but Jupiter's developing the contract. So it's sort of, again, it's like.
How do you get the resolution from Kalshi?
I think they just read it on chain. I guess they are pulling from the API or something.
Kalshi is just posting on chain, hey, this
yeah, I mean, it's kind of like if you and I, put money into an escrow and we're like, okay, this is going to be our trade for the resolution of a Kalshi contract. We could do that offline.
Yeah. But Kalshi's posting the Oracle resolutions. Okay, got it. Yeah, so that seems to be part of Kalshi's on-chain strategy is using this RFQ type mechanism as opposed to actually trying to put an exchange on chain, whereas Polymarket, the actual exchange itself, the liquidity, everything is on chain, and then they're launching their US product, obviously, which is kind of segregated liquidity in the US. And then the other big news relevant to the whole meta is Robinhood, of course, which is a large portion of Kalshi's overall volumes is coming through sports betting and prediction markets. on Robinhood. So Robinhood's a distributor and they're sharing some of the economics with Kalshi. Robinhood announced that it's now building its own JV with Susquehanna, very well-known market maker and market participant, to build a CFTC licensed futures and derivatives exchange and clearinghouse, DCM, DCO, SEF, for prediction markets and for event contracts, meaning seemingly that they're going to now be internalizing this and cutting out Kalshi. So we've seen from Robinhood's quarterly reporting that this is one of their fastest growing verticals, at least on a percentage basis, not in absolute terms. So they see that this is working. This is a great business line. And seemingly they don't want to split the revenue with Kalshi, especially if they own the users and the users they don't have allegiance to Kalshi, they have allegiance to Robinhood. They're like, hey, we might as well own the rails ourselves. So how do you guys think about the meta of prediction markets as it's evolving, Polymarket coming onshore, Kalshi going on chain, and then Robinhood potentially cutting out both? What do you think the future looks like for this space?
I think Robinhood is one of the few firms that can internalize the product and everything that's required from the legal and regulatory side to the tech side. I don't think there's going to be many firms like Robinhood capable of doing that. And so I think what we're going to see is sort of an oligopoly between Robinhood, which has distribution, right? It has a huge user base, plus its own internalized prediction markets. I think you're going to see firms like Coinbase that partner with one of the two. I think you're going to see others that partner with one or two. I think what you're going to get in an end state is a couple systems as backends for others, like Kalshi and Polymarket. And you're going to see one or two attempts at internalization Robinhood. I'm sure someone else will try it, probably less successfully, right? I'm sure at some point, I'm making this up, Vanguard will do it. I mean, not Vanguard, obviously, but like someone like that is going to be
Sure.
like, oh, we're doing a prediction market. You know? And I think you're going to see approaches that are vastly different, but all of them sort of succeed in their own way. I think the problem is going to be the startups, and there's a lot of startups trying to build prediction markets that are not really going to have distribution or the ability to win distribution over Kalshi and Polymarket. I think we're going to see this sort of like first mover advantage. And I think there's going to be a lot of dead bodies of people to try to do something different.
So where does the money get made though?
I mean, I think as always, it's on who owns distribution and has consumer loyalty. And so this case, probably, Robinhood, at least in this example, I think, and it's not really uncharted territory for them already, right? Like they already use ForecastX, which is CME's, I guess, DCM for some contracts. And so when you're already using it, they're already aggregating over existing event contract providers. I think, and then I'm guessing their joint venture will just be one of those and maybe one they'll try to promote more. The thing that's kind of weird is like, okay, they also do this across other financial services and products they have within Robinhood today. You can get, all sorts of options. You can get by spot. You can get a mortgage. You can, but they're not the ones offering it. They're obviously syndicating out through someone else. But with event contracts, like they're not necessarily fungible. Like me buying, like a piece of stock is different than, okay, maybe these two different election contracts resolve slightly differently, or maybe they're like weird quirks about the way the contracts are structured, such that like the one from ForecastX is not the exact same as the one from Kalshi. It's not the exact same as this one from this JV. So I don't know how you kind of resolve that. I think Kalshi, I would have to imagine, saw this coming. Like it's not, this classic like commoditize your complement kind of strategy. I'm guessing that's why they're trying to push so hard into crypto is like, oh shit, this like huge bulk of our volume is shrinking and trying to get rid of us. And so we are going to get in a lifeboat and try to get into crypto and try to get some crypto flow. And I'm guessing that's part of their thinking in doing this on-chain push.
Yeah, I think it's to me it's a story of distribution on both sides. Like you can imagine, I feel like it's a pretty simple answer of like you can imagine Robinhood sitting in a room going like, all right, there's this enormously profitable new vertical. Everyone in the world is betting on this growing a ton. We own the distribution for it. Like, can we get more juice out of this lemon? Like, can we actually make more money on this? Sorry?
It's a lemon.
Pineapple.
Something tastier, I thought.
Yeah, I don't know. Like making
I don't want to drink lemon juice.
They own all the distribution in this enormous vertical, and leadership's probably like, do this better. Like we can win this outright. And this is just a strategic play for them. Same thing with Kalshi, right? Like the Kalshi side almost reminds me of kind of tokenized stocks when that was a story maybe 6 months ago, where it's like, why is this potentially valuable? Well, there's just more distribution, right? There's just access for a lot of folks that can now come and use the product. And if you're betting on crypto growing, like they're on Solana. Solana has awesome distribution, especially for retail. there's probably a lot of overlap between people that trade meme coins on Solana and people who use prediction markets. And so that's their foray into distribution.
Yeah. The one, and this is trying just to look really far out into the future and like seeing what wins and loses. Like, I think right now we're looking at competition over a somewhat overlapping series of events that are being speculated on, where it's like major sporting events and major political events. That's kind of the market right now. It's not a long tail. It's like a fat body of like the most popular things. That is the battleground. I think what we're going to see is the market will evolve at some point, and the battleground will evolve to being like you have this like set of core type of events that are extremely popular. But I actually personally think the longer tail of all other things is actually a much bigger market that nobody is currently contesting and nobody is really fighting for right now. And there's so many things that go into this long tail. It's everything from, speculating on weather events when there's a big flood coming, it's everything like to like a high school basketball game. It's like theoretically there's like 10 million different events per day that people would want to speculate on if they could, if it was as easy as like talking into your phone being like, I think like this high school team is going to win, and it's like anyone else in the like stands can be like, screw you. Like, but like, I think like the total number of events that people want to speculate on or bet on or like be engaged in or want to hedge is actually absurdly long. It's like constant. And I don't think anyone is fighting for tapping into this market at all yet. I don't think they have a way of really conceiving of it yet, because most of the platforms are built for like a couple big markets and the liquidity to aggregate in it. It's not built for a long tail. And that market, I think, is much larger. And I think someone new is going to crack that at some point. It could come from a Kalshi. It could come from a poly market. I don't think it can come from a Robinhood, frankly, because it's not like a full web interface, But I think like that is not being addressed at all. And it's quite large.
Well, good little request for startup. Right
Request for startup.
Yeah.
Long tail prediction. Let's
Long
go.
tail prediction
Permissionless
or
prediction.
AI that solves quantum.
Permissionless prediction.
That's also a big one.
Predict everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, maybe a quantum AI will be able to predict everything.
At the end of the show, I'm going to actually check to see if that is a certified banger.
I'm gonna do that right when we wrap.
Yeah, right.
Well, we're up on time, so maybe we should all check our phones and retweet your.
What do you guys think? Certified banger or certified dud?
I'm gonna say
It's day
banger right
one.
now. I'm gonna say dud right now, but we're gonna turn it into a banger when the show ends. What are we at?
This is a extreme dud. Probably my worst tweet of all time.
Don't delete it. I'm gonna retweet it.
4 likes.
Okay.
I've never had a tweet get only 4 likes in my entire life. 18 minutes in. This is the worst metrics I've ever
Okay, but
seen.
a lot can change. A lot can change. You got four other
Day one, the
accounts here.
token just launched.
Yeah,
Give it time.
Day
Give it
one.
time. There's a lesson here. And you have failed to learn it.
Yeah, writing by committee is always.
Okay, we're up on time. Kevin, how should we what should people do to engage with Monad? Here's your plug. Go for it.
Yeah. Probably the easiest way is to go on Twitter, go to @monad, MONAD. The pinned tweet has a very easy explainer.
And
on
just
everything.
type how shitty it is and how terrible you think.
Right.
Yeah.
Tweet anything about Monad.
Anything terrible you
usually
want to tweet,
negative.
go @Monad, you suck.
If you want
Tag his
more,
mom.
Yeah.
right.
Tag intern and his mom.
Tag @MomLearnsCrypto. Mention Monad and some hateful thing. You will definitely get more than 4 likes in 18 minutes.
Hey,
It will work. I promise.
there
Let's
you
go.
Excellent. Love it. All right. That's it from us. Thanks, everybody. Be back next week.